This is From the Front Lines. I'm Pastor Larry, and the date is Friday, June the 19th, 2020. From the Front Lines seeks to help you engage in the battle, and we are in a battle. We're in a culture war, and ultimately our culture war involves demonic and spiritual forces. So From the Front Lines is kind of oriented to equipping believers. I really believe that Christians need to be equipped. We kind of think of churches, John 3:16, going to church 11 to 12, and that's it. We are in a battle, okay? All the liberals, they don't just live 1 hour a week for their cause. They eat it and drink it, think about it, and it's uppermost in their minds. The same thing needs to be true with believers like you and me. I want to talk on the topic, does any of this surprise you? We pretty much had thought that we had a conservative Supreme Court. Big disappointment this week. Neil Gorsuch, however, appointed by President Trump, has just sold out and sided with liberals. In the Harris case, and maybe you've read about it, Judge Gorsuch voted with liberals, and he actually authored the majority opinion. I was absolutely shocked. He was put on the bench by President Trump, but the president had obviously gotten a bum steer from his advisors, and I don't really blame the president. I'm sure he follows his advisors. He's doing so many things, it's hard for him to check everything out. But this man, Neil Gorsuch, is no conservative. He's a real disappointment. I thought we had a conservative court. We really don't. Now, what the court did under his majority opinion, he gave voice to it, was to rewrite the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It was illegal, originally, it was illegal to discriminate against anyone on the basis of sex, whether male or female. And that's what the word sex has to do. If you say, well, I'm not going to hire you because you're a girl or a female, that's discrimination. But now the word sex has been expanded to include gender identity and sexual orientation. In other words, for a liberal like Neil Gorsuch, words are like clay, wet clay. You can kind of mold them around, and silly putty, you know how the kids play with silly putty? What we have is if a transgender woman comes to you and wants to be addressed with the pronoun she, and you say no, you're still a biological male, you are in trouble. That's what this means. If you do not want to hire a she who is still a he because you don't want to hire transgenders, you are guilty of violating the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Just think of what that means for churches and Christian camps and Christian organizations like our organization. Justice Neil Gorsuch not only sided with the liberals, but he authored the majority opinion. Should we be surprised? No. Let me tell you why. Neil Gorsuch and his wife attend a notably liberal and extremely liberal and LGBT-friendly church at St. John's Episcopal Church in Boulder, Colorado. The pastor is Susan Springer, who is a left-winger, way out here, really on the edge. After the Orlando massacre in a gay nightclub in June of 2016, you remember Omar Mateen shot 49 people. Gorsuch's pastor, Susan Springer, advocated for stricter gun control laws, as though that would help anything. Now, what is the Episcopal Church like? And this is an Episcopal church where Justice Gorsuch goes. Well, in 2003, Gene Robinson was ordained as the first openly homosexual bishop in the Episcopal Church. Now, that's not all. In 2015, the Episcopal Church U.S. voted to allow their clergy to perform so-called same-sex weddings. And this is the church where Justice Gorsuch and his wife went. And so, in spite of his attendance at the liberal St. John's Episcopal Church, some argued, well, it didn't really matter. Don't get excited. He's okay. He's going to be a good conservative jurist. Listen, they were wrong. You know, Jesus said the things that would be shouted or would be spoken in secret are going to be shouted from the rooftops. This is a case of it being shouted from the rooftops. Many claim that Neil Gorsuch shared the same views as Justice Antonin Scalia. Give me a break. He's no comparison with Antonin Scalia. They were wrong. Now, does any of this surprise you? It shouldn't. On April 14, 2020, former President Barack Obama endorsed his former Vice President, Joe Biden, Old Joe, as President Trump calls him. Obama endorsed Biden and spoke about his, quote, listen to this, moral fiber which his parents passed on to him and that made him who he is, close quotes. Well, President Obama was flat wrong, probably deliberately deceptive. Biden is not a person of moral fiber. And I'm kind of laughing at that because it's so utterly ridiculous. These liberals take words and they just twist the words and give them, they evacuate the real meaning and pump into these standard words new meaning. You see, Biden has morphed from the moderate he claimed to be on abortion into a radical supporter of abortion rights. Throughout Biden's time in the U.S. Senate, he supported the Hyde Amendment and other anti-abortion measures, which he credited. He actually said, well, I'm a Catholic, and I'm doing that because of my Catholic faith. But Joe Biden is an opportunist. He wants to be president of the United States. God forbid that should happen. So as the Democratic Party began to become more radical, pushing harder on abortion, Biden's moral fiber, his Catholic faith, turned into smoke. It just blew away. It disappeared. He was looking for success, and so he changed his mind on abortion from being a moderate pro-lifer to a radical pro-choice abortion supporter. So after years of supporting the Hyde Amendment, which says that tax dollars will not be used for abortions, Joe Biden lost his moral fiber, so to speak. I think old Joe never had any moral fiber in the first place. I think he's a compromiser, certainly not presidential material. I think he's an opportunist, and I think he wants to be president of the United States. Now, I'm not the only one who feels that way. Recently, a black female evangelist told a group of Seattle protesters that if you elect Biden, you're going to see a lot of black people get killed. The evangelist, Beverly Beatty, told her audience, quote, Jesus is the answer. She was saying this in Seattle. She and another evangelist named Edmee Chavannes are co-founders of At the Well Ministries. God bless these dear ladies. Yes, Joe Biden is a compromiser and an opportunist. Does any of this surprise you? Well, listen, we're in for a lot of things that we shouldn't be surprised about. Let me just read a little bit from Teen Vogue. Teen Vogue is pushing Karl Marx to your teenage sons and daughters. The question is, and I'm reading from Clarion Project, why is Teen Vogue pushing Karl Marx to its young readers? Unfortunately, the magazine that bills itself as the young person's guide to saving the world has a history of pushing the ideas of class struggle and Marxist revolution to this demographic, that is, to teens. Should we be surprised? Absolutely not. Now, all of this does surprise some people, even good people. I know good Christian people say, wow, what's going on? Man, this is really surprising. What's happening? What's going to happen to me and my family? And they're saying, you know, man, you can't get away from it. You're going to have a rough morning because even over breakfast, families are talking about this kind of stuff. And the fact is, you have to pick a side. There is no neutrality. And I want you to listen to this Bongino clip. It's very revealing.
I don't mean to be dramatic here. We're not filming some movie, but we had a rough morning here in the house, the Bongino household. You just can't get away from this stuff. So it's going to be an interesting show today. You're all going to have to pick a side soon. Every single one of you. You cannot avoid the fights ahead. I'm very sorry to have to tell you that. you're all going to have to pick a side.
We are facing a monster. It's called cultural Marxism. We don't see an armed attack on the White House with armed men planting a red flag on the White House lawn like, the Russian Revolution. We don't see that. We see a bringing together of all of the diverse groups which are engaged in their own struggles, urban, ecological, feminist, anti-racist, ethnic, and sexual minorities. And these cultural Marxists want to harness the energy of these divergent groups. And they're motivated by one thing. They hate America and they hate Donald Trump. And they're using all of this pent-up energy as they gather all these malcontents in our country and in the world to attack Western culture. The Marxist basis for the Black Lives Matter movement is clear on their website. If you read the website, it says this: our aim is to, quote, dismantle imperialism, capitalism, white supremacy, patriarchy, and the state structures that, listen, oppress minorities, close quotes. So when people see the protests and the violent demonstrations, people often ask, well, what do they want? How can we appease these people? How can we help them? How can we satisfy them? Well, listen, we look for solutions. They don't want solutions. Derek Chauvin, that horrible Minneapolis police officer who held his knee on George Floyd for 9 minutes, has been arrested. I mean, doesn't that satisfy them? Aren't they happy with that? 3 of the officers have been fired. Buildings have been burned. Protests have erupted all across America and in England and France. What do they want? What can we do? What will satisfy them? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You see, we want solutions. They don't want solutions. We want peace and stability. They don't want peace and stability. It's the revolution. And an important part of the revolution is violence. They want unspeakable, horrendous, cruel, shocking violence, violence that is nothing more than insane rage. Now, friends, we have a video clip that we're going to show. It's very upsetting, and we've hesitated to share it with you because it's so upsetting. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. I'm an old guy. I used to be a state trooper many years ago, and I've been around here for many, many years. I've traveled to Pakistan. I've seen a lot of upsetting things, but this is a very, very upsetting video, and we're going to show it to you because we want you to be upset. This is serious. The video makes the point in a way far more compelling than I could ever do with words. Watch the video as a black man viciously beats up a white woman. The first punch would have killed a horse. While this woman is on the ground, guess what? He continues to beat her up and to punch her in the head. This clip is disgusting, but this is what's happening in America right now. I told you it would be upsetting. It's horrible. You think of your wife, your daughter. Will something like this happen to them? Will it happen to you? But there's a surprising ending. It's a demonstration of raw justice. And kind of when I looked at the raw justice, I said, oh, that's good. And then I'm thinking, what's happening to me? Is this what happens when there's no law and order? The same man who viciously beat this woman is now on the ground. He has been bludgeoned by several other blacks who evidently felt that what he did to this white woman was horrendously wrong. They're going to fix the situation, and they beat him and beat him and beat him. Watch carefully. Cultural Marxism has a secret weapon. And I'm going to tell you what the secret weapon is. It manipulates people with guilt. If you're white, if you're conscientious, if you want to help, racism is your fault. And they're made to manipulate you, to make you feel guilty. Because you have white privilege, because you've been brought up in a good home, you need to feel guilty. Now watch this clip, this white woman bowing down, getting on her knees. Listen to it. This is what is happening to our world.
Excuse me. Hey, excuse me. I work for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. I work for Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry that I scared you.
That's okay.
But since I work for that company, my CEO has told me to come out today and to bring you on your knees because you have white privilege. So if they see that a white person is getting on their knees, that shows solidarity for the situation. And could you just please apologize for your white privilege? Just apologize.
I am. I'm trying to think of the right words to say because that's a big thing to say.
It's
That's
big.
something that comes from.
It's large in this country.
I'm incredibly sorry that.
With this country, we have that president, Donald Duck, that clown in office. He's brought a lot of bigotry, and you're not a part of it, right?
No, God, jeez.
No. And so,
Thank
just-
you for letting me have a moment. Good luck with your
okay, you have a great day.
So friends, what's the answer? I can tell you one thing. It's not Black Lives Matter. It's not rioting. It's not mayhem. There's a song that we used to sing in Vacation Bible School. Some of the churches that I had, we just had great Vacation Bible Schools. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. This clip will bless you immensely.
Here, start over. Psalm 23.
What is I sipping? I saw no one. Make me a lie down a green path. So give me a path rightness for name's sake. Yea, I will walk to a valley, sound death, and fear no evil. Thou art with me. And what is that they come to me? Our parallel table for me. I really am my enemies. Anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Glory, goodness, and mercy, and follow me all days in your life. Dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Amen.
Yes, indeed. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Now, does this surprise you? You know, sometimes people let us down, but God never does. Just like he's not going to let this little black girl down. She has the joy of the Lord in her heart. And I'm so excited when I realize that despite all the darkness, there are whites, there are blacks, they all love Jesus, and they're living peacefully together. There are Asians, and there are Pakistanis, there are Egyptians, Libyans, people from Central Africa, black as could be, all loving Jesus. Jesus is the answer. Friends, from the front lines, we're on the front lines. God bless you. Remember to gather with God's people on the Lord's Day, and I pray that God would bless you richly. Plan to see you next Friday.